presentation, we are going to explore deeper into the US political structure, because our idea is to understand the US election system or the voting system, because we have seen in our last video that what an operating system is to a computer, the same role is played by election system in a democratic setup. But how can we understand the election system of any country unless we know its political structure well? That is what we are going to do today.
After creating colonies in South America with the torture and massacre of the native population, Europeans started entering North America. Initially they were Spanish and French. However, after defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588, British entered the free for colonies in North America in large numbers, slowly pushing and uprooting the Native Americans. 13 British colonies were established in North America till 1750, along with the French colonies such as Florida, Louisiana, Acadia and Canada. The colonies were ruled and controlled by the British king from London. Dissatisfaction among the colonies over the rule by the king started getting deeper every decade. The main issues were the control over the affairs of the colonies by the king, trade in the colonies for the benefit of the main British land, and the taxation. As the king became heavily indebted due to the Anglo-British War for 10 years since 1754, the burden of taxation became too heavy on the colonists. They rebelled against the new and heavy taxes, giving a slogan, "No taxation without representation." This became a spark for revolution to come.
These 13 colonies did not remain 13 alone. As and how more and more areas were annexed to United States of America, more and more states were created. Some areas were won from Spanish, some were purchased, and some were taken from the Indians, the original Aboriginal Indians over there, as they were either massacred or they died in the contagious diseases, and they were pushed back into very microscopic reserved settlements for them. Now, as of today, United States of America has 50 states. The structure is federal. Now, federal meaning is a cake layer structure. By cake layer, very interesting to understand the meaning of the cake layer structure. See, cake layer means one layer, which is the federal government, is given certain powers, and all the residual powers rest with the state governments. That means basically the governing unit for the people is the state government, and all these states which have come together to form United States have delegated some powers to the federal government, and only those powers rest with the federal government. Now, which are those powers? Obviously, the powers like defense, the powers like external affairs, the powers to have armed forces, and also to have the currency. Such powers rest with the federal government. But all the remaining powers, that is about the trade, about the commerce, about the taxes, are with the state governments. But these are not just tangential circles. Let us understand this structure, which is a cake-layered structure, is not independent of each other. These governing units are not exclusive of each other. In the sense, that there are certain powers which can also be called as a concurrent powers. That means these are not the tangential circles but intersecting circles. That means some powers are exclusively with the federal government, some powers are exclusively with the state governments, and there are some powers which are shared between the two. For example, the taxation. There can be federal taxes, there can be state taxes. So such powers like banking, like finance, so there are such powers which are shared between the two. Now, United States of America has one constitution which is called as a federal constitution, and which came into being after the formation of United States of America through a long drawn process after 1789 and 1791, which was finalized in that year. But every state has its own constitution, which is not the case with other federal entities such as India, for example. So every state has its own constitution, and all the elections are conducted, the power of conducting elections, including the presidential elections, rest with the state government as far as the voting and the election in that particular state is concerned. So this is the nature of the US federal structure.